Abstract. Duke Archibald Blackwood has a problem. He is the last golden dragon, cursed to remain in human form unless he finds his fated bride, a Penelope Miller, prophesied to break the spell. When he sends his grumpy, directionally challenged griffin, Barnaby, to retrieve her, things go terribly wrong. Instead of the destined redhead, Barnaby snatches a bespectacled pastry chef named Penny who is more interested in berry pudding than ancient curses. Trapped in a magical dimension with a ghostly staff, a kleptomaniac raccoon, and a duke who calls her Catastrophe, Penny must survive a week at Cloud Manor. But as accidental collisions turn into sparks, Archie realizes that perhaps the wrong girl is the right one after all. The interdimensional winds howled around the jagged spires of Cloud Manor, a sound that usually soothed Duke Archibald Blackwood, but today only served to fray his already disintegrating patience. Archibald, Archie to no one but himself, paced the obsidian floor of his study, his boots clicking sharply against the stone. He stopped in front of a massive, floor-to-ceiling mirror, glaring at his reflection. The man staring back was tall, with sharp cheekbones, hair the color of midnight, and eyes that burned with the frustrated embers of molten gold. He looked every bit the imposing aristocrat, but inside, he felt like a caged animal. Because he was one. "Barnaby is late," Archie growled, turning to the large window that overlooked the swirling purple mists of the void. "If that feathered, oversized chicken got distracted by a flock of cloud sheep again, I'm going to have him rug beaten." Archie checked his pocket watch for the 10th time in as many minutes. The prophecy of the Gilded Scale was specific. Find Penelope Miller. Red hair, green eyes. The fire of the ancients lies within. She was the key. She was the battery that would jumpstart his dormant draconian core and allow him to finally shed this fragile human skin. He had given Barnaby the coordinates, the description, and a very stern lecture about focus. Suddenly, a screech pierced the air. Archie looked up to see a chaotic blur of feathers and fur diving erratically through the mist. Barnaby the griffin slammed onto the balcony with the grace of a falling piano, skidding across the stone and knocking over a heavy iron planter. Finally, Archie threw the balcony doors open. "Do you have her? Is she here?" Barnaby let out a squawk that sounded suspiciously like a complaint, shook his massive wings, and lifted a talon. Suspended from his claw by the straps of a worn canvas backpack was a human. Archie squinted. The girl was dangling helplessly, spinning slowly in the wind. She wasn't screaming, which was unusual. Most humans screamed. Instead, she seemed to be clutching a jar of, were those berries? Barnaby dropped her. The girl landed on the balcony with a thud and a groan, her glasses skittering across the floor. She scrambled on hands and knees, ignoring the terrifying abyss beyond the railing, and snatched up her spectacles. She shoved them onto her nose and looked up. Archie felt his heart stop, then restart with a rhythm of pure fury. She had mousy brown hair that was currently sticking up in every direction. Her eyes were not emerald green, but a warm, inquisitive hazel. She was wearing a flour-dusted apron over jeans and a sweater that had seen better days. "Who?" Archie said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Is this?" The girl blinked, adjusting her glasses. "I'm Penny," she squeaked. "Penny Miller. And if this is the Whispering Hills Reserve, the zoning committee has really let the maintenance go." Archie turned his burning gaze slowly toward the griffin. "Barnaby." The griffin preened his chest feathers innocently. "I said red hair." Archie roared, the sound echoing off the castle turrets. "I said green eyes. I said the destined one. You brought me a brunette baker's assistant." "Junior assistant pastry chef," Penny corrected automatically, standing up and brushing dust off her knees. She looked around, her eyes widening as she took in the floating islands in the distance and the violet sky. "Okay. Definitely not the reserve. Did I die? I remember slipping on the moss. Is this the afterlife? It's very drafty." Archie pinched the bridge of his nose. "You are not dead, Ms. Miller. You have been kidnapped by an incompetent mythological beast." I am Duke Archibald Blackwood, and you are currently in Cloud Manor, situated in a pocket dimension between the fabrics of reality. Penny stared at him. Then she looked at the griffin, who was currently scratching his ear, with a hind leg like a dog. A pocket dimension, she repeated flatly. I have 6 dozen tartlets to prep for the mayor's brunch tomorrow. Forget your tartlets. Archie snapped. This is a disaster. The portal requires a full week to recharge before I can send you back. A week. I am stuck with the wrong human. He glared at her. You are a catastrophe. A walking, baking catastrophe. Hey. Penny crossed her arms. I didn't ask to be airlifted by a giant pigeon. Barnaby hissed. Griffin, Archie corrected. And yes, he is an idiot. He sighed, the anger draining out to leave only exhaustion. Come inside. Unless you prefer to freeze on the balcony. The mist becomes acidic after sundown.
Penny scrambled inside.
The interior of Cloud Manor was a strange mix of Gothic grandeur and bachelor neglect. The ceilings were lost in shadows, and the furniture was draped in dust sheets. As they entered the main hall, a shimmering, translucent figure floated through the wall. He was dressed in a tuxedo and carried a silver tray with nothing on it. Your Grace, the ghost said, his voice echoing slightly. I see the Master Barnaby has returned. Shall I prepare the guest suite? Winston, Archie said wearily. This is Penny. She is a mistake. She stays for a week. Put her in the East Wing. And try to keep her out of trouble. Charmed, miss. Winston bowed, his head detaching slightly from his neck before he adjusted it back. Penny's jaw dropped. You're transparent. Observation is a keen skill, miss. A new voice chimed in. A stout, ghostly woman in a maid's uniform drifted down the grand staircase. I am Mrs. Potts. Don't mind the Duke, dear. He's been in a foul mood for 300 years. Come along. I'll show you to your room. Watch out for the 3rd step. It bites. It creaks? Penny asked, following the ghost.
No, dir.
It bites. Would mimic. Just step over it. Archie watched them go, rubbing his temples. A week. He had to endure this ordinary, non-magical, non-prophesied human for a whole week. Catastrophe, he muttered again. Penny's room was vast, cold, and smelled of lavender and old paper. There was a 4-poster bed that looked large enough to sleep a family of 4, and a heavy velvet curtain covering the window. Mrs. Potts hovered by the door. Make yourself at home, dear. Dinner is at 8. The Duke hates tardiness almost as much as he hates joy. Is he always that intense? Penny asked, setting her backpack down. He carries a heavy burden, Mrs. Potts sighed, floating closer. Between you and me, he's not really a man. He's the last golden dragon. Cursed. Stuck in that skin until he finds his mate. He thought you were the one to break the seal on his magic. Penny blinked. A dragon? Like, breathes fire, hoards gold. Mostly, he hoards grievances these days, Mrs. Potts said. But yes, he needs a surge of specific otherworldly energy to shift back. He's quite powerful, really. Just constipated with magic. Mrs. Potts drifted out through the closed door, leaving Penny alone to process the fact that she was the prisoner of a magically constipated dragon duke. She sighed and sat on the bed to take off her sneakers. Suddenly, she felt a tug. Hey! She looked down. A masked face was staring up at her from under the bed ruffle. It was a raccoon. A very fat, very bold raccoon. It had its paws wrapped firmly around the toe of her sock and was pulling with surprising strength. Let go. Penny laughed, playing tug-of-war. That's my sock. The raccoon chattered angrily, gave one final yank, and succeeded in pulling the sock halfway off before Penny reclaimed it. The animal hissed, glared at her with betrayal, and scurried up the heavy curtains, disappearing into the dark rafters of the high ceiling. Great, Penny muttered. Ghost servants, a dragon landlord, and a kleptomaniac raccoon. Just another Tuesday. Deciding that exploring was better than moping, Penny left the room. She wandered down the corridor, admiring the dusty portraits of grim-looking men who all bore a resemblance to Archie. She found herself at the top of a magnificent spiral staircase. The railing was wide, smooth, and polished mahogany. A mischievous thought sparked in her mind. She hadn't done this since she was 12. She looked around.
No ghosts.
No Duke. Penny hitched her leg over the banister. She adjusted her glasses, gripped the sides, and pushed off. She picked up speed instantly. The wind rushed past her ears. It was exhilarating. She whizzed around the curves, laughing, feeling lighter than she had since she fell off the cliff. She rounded the final spiral at terminal velocity, flying off the end of the rail, and slammed directly into a solid, velvet-clad chest. Oof! There was a tangle of limbs, a shout of surprise, and the sickening sound of two bodies hitting the floor. Penny groaned, opening her eyes. She was lying directly on top of Duke Archibald. His golden eyes were wide with shock, and his hair was splayed out on the carpet. For a moment, neither of them moved. Penny could feel the heat radiating from him, literally. He was like a human furnace. "Ms. Miller," Archie wheezed, "is this an assassination attempt?" The railing. It looked fast," Penny stammered, her face heating up. She scrambled off him. "I'm so sorry." Archie sat up, dusting off his pristine jacket. He looked like he wanted to yell, but before he could, a loud crack echoed through the hall. A scroll materialized out of thin air, wrapped in violet flames, and dropped onto his lap. "A magical fax," Archie muttered, breaking the seal. He scanned the parchment, and his face went pale. "Bad news?" Penny asked tentatively, still sitting on the floor. "The Queen," Archie said, his voice hollow. "She demands I host the Winter Ball in 3 days. And she expects me to present my fiancé. If I don't, she will strip me of my title and seize the manor." "Fiancé?" "The prophecy girl," Archie snapped, crumbling the paper. "The Queen knows I've been searching. She's tired of waiting. If I don't have a bride, the estate goes to the crown and I likely rot in a dungeon." He looked at Penny, his eyes narrowing. "You. Me? You are here. You are a woman. You are." He looked her up and down. "Technically presentable, if we squint. I am not playing your fake fiancé."
Penny protested.
"It's not a request, catastrophe. It's survival. You stay for a week?
Fine.
You earn your keep. You just have to stand there, nod, and try not to slide down any banisters in front of the aristocracy." Later that evening, Penny sat on the balcony of the library, a different balcony, one that overlooked a garden of silver roses that chimed like bells in the wind. She had been trying to find the kitchen, but got lost. Archie was there, leaning against the stone, staring at the sky. He didn't yell at her to leave. "So," Penny said, approaching him cautiously. "Mrs. Potts said you're a dragon." Archie didn't look at her. "Mrs. Potts talks too much. Is it painful? Being stuck?" Archie sighed, a puff of steam escaping his lips into the cold air. "Imagine wearing a suit of armor that is 2 sizes too small, 24 hours a day. My magic is blocked. I need an anchor from another world to ground the energy so I can release it." That was supposed to be the redhead. "Sorry I'm not her," Penny said softly. "I'm just a baker. The most magic I do is getting a soufflé to rise." Archie turned to her. The moonlight softened the harsh angles of his face. "Do you like baking? Or is it just a job?" "I love it," Penny smiled, her eyes lighting up. "It's chemistry and art. You take simple things, flour, eggs, sugar, and turn them into happiness. When people eat my pudding for a second, they aren't worried about rent or rain. They're just happy." Archie studied her. "I haven't felt just happy in centuries." "Maybe you need some pudding," Penny suggested. "I don't eat human food often. It tastes like ash compared to—" He trailed off.
"Look."
He pointed to the sky. Barnaby the Griffin was soaring through the clouds, chasing wisps of vapor, like a puppy chasing its tail. "He looks happy," Penny noted. "He's simple," Archie said, but there was affection in his voice. "He doesn't worry about prophecies or queens." They stood in silence for a while, a strange, fragile truce forming between them. You should get some sleep. Catastrophe, Archie said finally, pushing off the railing. Tomorrow, the madness begins. Penny dreamed of flying, but in her dream, she wasn't falling. She was being held by golden claws. She was awakened abruptly by a tremendous crash. She sat up, screaming, as plaster dust rained down on her face. The heavy velvet canopy over her bed had collapsed. Through the hole in the fabric, debris was pouring onto her quilt, along with hundreds of acorns, shiny spoons, mismatched socks, and a very startled raccoon. Bandit. Penny coughed, waving away the dust. The raccoon, panicked by the collapse of his secret attic stash, shrieked and bit the nearest thing, which happened to be Penny's pinky finger.
Ow.
The door flew open. Archie burst in, wearing silk pajamas that cost more than Penny's entire life, his hands glowing with golden light. What happened? I heard the... He stopped, taking in the scene. The collapsed canopy. The pile of stolen spoons. The raccoon hissing on the pillow. Penny clutching her finger. The ceiling fell. Penny said, voice trembling. And your raccoon bit me. Archie didn't mock her. He crossed the room in 2 strides, banishing the raccoon with a wave of his hand. Bandit flew out the door, chattering curses. Archie sat on the edge of the bed and took Penny's hand. Let me see. His touch was searing hot, but not painful. A soft, golden glow transferred from his palm to her finger. The pain vanished instantly. The small wound closed up, leaving not even a scar. Penny stared at him. Up close, his eyes were mesmerizing, swirls of gold and amber. You healed me. Dragon saliva has healing properties, Archie muttered, then realized what he said. Not that I mean, dragon magic. It's light magic. He cleared his throat and let go of her hand quickly. You can't stay here. The ceiling is compromised. Where do I go? The pink drawing room, Archie commanded, standing up and regaining his duke-like composure. It has a sofa bed, and it connects to my chambers. If the rodent returns, I will hear it. He marched her down the hall, Penny clutching her pillow like a shield. The pink drawing room was indeed pink, but warm. Good night, Penny, Archie said stiffly at the connecting door. Good night, Archie, she replied. He paused. No one had called him just Archie, without a title in a long time. He didn't correct her. The next morning, Penny woke up starving. The adrenaline of interdimensional travel and ceiling collapses had burned through her reserves. She found her way to the dining room, where Winston and Mrs. Potts had laid out a spread. When Archie entered 10 minutes later, freshly dressed in a sharp black suit, he stopped dead. Penny was demolishing a mountain of bacon. There were 3 empty plates stacked beside her. She was currently buttering a piece of toast with the intensity of a surgeon. Good morning, she mumbled around a mouthful. Is she breathing? Archie asked Mrs. Potts. Barely, sir. It's quite impressive, the ghost replied. She eats like a soldier. I need calories, Penny swallowed. Stress makes me hungry. So, what's the plan, Your Grace? Decorations, Archie said, sitting down and sipping a cup of black coffee. The ball is in 2 days. The castle looks like a mausoleum. We need greenery. Barnaby and I are going to the Whispering Woods. You will come. To the woods? I thought I was supposed to stay inside. And leave you alone with the structural integrity of my home?
No.
You're coming. The Whispering Woods were less whispering and more groaning. The trees were massive, with bark that looked like twisted faces. The snow was knee-deep. Barnaby trotted alongside them, sniffing for good pine branches. Penny trudged behind Archie, admiring how the snow didn't seem to stick to him. He was a walking heater. We need a center tree, Archie said, pointing to a clearing. Something majestic. That one. Penny pointed to a gnarled oak that had fallen but was still green at the top. An oak? For Yule? It's traditional to use fir, Archie scoffed. Tradition is just peer pressure from dead people, Penny countered. That oak has character. Before Archie could argue, the ground shook. Barnaby shrieked and flared his wings. From the frozen swamp to their left, a creature emerged. It stood 10 feet tall, made of mud, muck, and malice. A swamp troll. It roared, the smell of rotten eggs washing over them. "Behind me," Archie ordered, pushing Penny back. Barnaby, brave but foolish, lunged at the troll. The monster swung a massive club made of petrified wood. Thwack! It hit Barnaby's wing, sending the griffin tumbling into a snowbank with a pained yelp. "Barnaby!" Penny screamed. The troll turned its beady eyes on Penny. It raised the club again. Archie's eyes flashed pure gold. "No one touches my guests," he snarled. He didn't have his full dragon fire, but he had rage. He raised a hand, palm open. Petrificus totalis. Oh, to hell with the Latin. Freeze! A beam of concentrated golden light shot from his hand. It hit the troll square in the chest. The mud turned to gray stone instantly, spreading outward until the creature was frozen mid-roar, a grotesque statue. Penny, who had scrambled up the very oak tree she had pointed out earlier to escape, lost her grip as the tree shook from the magical impact. She tumbled from the branch. She didn't hit the ground. Archie caught her. He held her bridle style, his chest heaving, smoke curling from his nostrils. "Are you entirely incapable of staying on solid ground, Ms. Miller?" he asked, though his voice was breathless. "Are you entirely incapable of being nice about saving my life?" Penny retorted, though her heart was hammering against her ribs. Archie smirked. He set her down and ran to Barnaby. The griffin was whining, holding his wing at an awkward angle. "Oh, you feathered moron," Archie murmured softly, placing his glowing hands on the wing. "I told you to flank, not charge." Penny watched as Archie poured his own energy into the beast, wincing as if taking the pain onto himself. He wasn't just a grumpy duke. He cared fiercely. "He'll be okay," Archie said, standing up and wiping sweat from his brow. "But he can't fly heavy loads." "We can drag the tree," Penny said. "The top of that oak. The one I climbed. It broke off when I fell. It's perfect." Archie looked at the broken oak top, then at the statue of the troll, and finally at Penny's hopeful face.
"Fine," he relented.
"An oak tree. Why not? My life is already a farce." Back at the castle, the atmosphere had shifted. The near-death experience had broken the ice. Archie, Penny, Winston, and Mrs. Potts dragged the massive oak branch into the great hall. "We don't have ornaments," Mrs. Potts lamented. "Use the attic junk,"
Penny suggested.
An hour later, the tree was the strangest, most beautiful thing Archie had ever seen. It was draped in velvet ribbons found in old trunks, hung with pocket watches, silver spoons, courtesy of Bandit, who watched from the shadows, and crystal prisms from a broken chandelier. "It's eccentric," Archie admitted, standing back. "It's a masterpiece," Penny declared. She found a music box on the mantel and cranked it. A wobbly, tinny waltz began to play. Sir Winston began to whistle the tune, amplifying it with ghost magic until it sounded like a full orchestra echoing through the hall. Archie looked at Penny. She was disheveled, her hair a mess, wearing wet sneakers and his oversized sweater. She looked nothing like the prophecy. "May I?" Archie extended a hand. Penny hesitated, then placed her hand in his. "I don't know the steps. Follow me. I've had 300 years of practice." They moved across the floor. Archie was a fluid, powerful lead. Penny stumbled at first, but he held her firm, guiding her until she found the rhythm. They spun under the strange oak tree, surrounded by ghosts and a watchful raccoon. For a moment, the curse, the queen, and the ticking clock didn't matter. Penny looked up into his golden eyes and felt a strange tug in her chest. Not magic, but something just as dangerous. "You're not terrible, Catastrophe," Archie murmured, spinning her. "You're not so bad yourself, Your Grace," she smiled. As the music faded, Penny pulled away, breathless. I need to find something to wear for this ball. If I'm going to be your fake fiancé, I can't wear jeans." "The archives," Archie said, clearing his throat, suddenly missing the warmth of her hand. There might be records of old dresses. Or at least something we can sell to buy one. Penny retreated to the library archives. She didn't find a dress record, but tucked inside a dusty ledger, she found a scroll, the legend of the lost chronometer. The chronometer, she read aloud. An artifact capable of winding back time or granting the heart's true desire. Lost in the ruins of New Bristol. Bandit the raccoon dropped from the shelf onto the table, startling her. In his paws, he held a string of pearls. He pushed them toward her, chattering softly. An apology for the finger bite. Thanks, Bandit. Penny stroked his head. She looked at the pearls, then at the scroll. New Bristol. That was the capital. Archie walked in. Penny, get ready. My jeans comment was a joke, but my aesthetic standards aren't. We are going to New Bristol. You need a dress and I need a drink. Penny grinned, tucking the scroll into her pocket. Let's go shopping, Dragon Boy. Hold your breath and elbows in, Archie commanded, standing before the massive fireplace in the library. He threw a handful of glittering silver powder into the flames, which roared up, turning a vibrant emerald green. New Bristol is busy this time of year. Try not to get soot on your nose. Penny gripped his arm. Is this safe? Safer than your driving, presumably, Archie smirked. He stepped forward, pulling her into the fire. The world dissolved in a rush of green wind and warmth. A moment later, they stumbled out of a polished marble fireplace and into the bustling lobby of the Grand Hotel in New Bristol. The capital was a spectacle of Victorian architecture and magical neon. Horse-drawn carriages clattered over cobblestones alongside floating trams, and the air smelled of roasted chestnuts and ozone. Close your mouth, Penny, Archie murmured, steering her through the crowd. We have a dress to find. They arrived at Madame Leclerc's, the most exclusive atelier in the city. The shop was an explosion of silk and velvet. However, the atmosphere was shattered by a screeching voice. I said, Emerald, you incompetent seamstress. This is clearly forest green. Standing on a podium was a tall, strikingly beautiful woman with platinum blonde hair and a sneer that could curdle milk. Lady Gwendolyn Smythe. She was berating a weeping shop assistant while clutching a magnificent green gown. Archibald. Gwendolyn spotted them in the mirror. Her expression shifted instantly from rage to sugary delight. She hopped down, ignoring the assistant. I heard rumors you were in town. And who is this? She looked at Penny with the kind of disdain usually reserved for something stuck to the bottom of a shoe. This is Penelope, Archie said, his jaw tight. My guest. Guest? Oh, the hired help, Gwendolyn laughed. Archie, darling, surely you aren't letting the staff shop here? I've just claimed the last decent gown for the winter ball. It matches my eyes, don't you think? I intend to look perfect when the Queen announces our engagement. Archie opened his mouth to retort, but Penny stepped forward. She saw the exhausted, terrified look in the seamstress's eyes. Actually, Penny said, her voice steady, that dress does match your eyes perfectly, Lady Gwendolyn. It would be a crime for anyone else to wear it. I prefer blue, anyway. Gwendolyn blinked, suspicious of the lack of a fight, but her vanity won out.
Well,
at least the commoner has eyes. She snatched the dress and swept out, leaving the shop in stunned silence. You let her have it, Archie frowned. That was the finest silk in the shop. She was going to fire that poor girl, Penny shrugged. She turned to the relieved seamstress. Do you have anything in sapphire? Maybe something simpler? I have a budget. She patted her pocket where Bandit's stolen pearls were wrapped in a handkerchief. 20 minutes later, Penny emerged from the fitting room. The dress was midnight blue sapphire, with long sleeves and a modest neckline that dipped in the back. It shimmered like the night sky. It wasn't flashy, but it hugged her figure in a way that made Archie's breath hitch. I sold the pearls to a jeweler down the street, Penny said, looking at herself in the mirror. Paid for cash. No Duke money needed. Archie stared at her, the golden flecks in his eyes swirling. You look adequate, he lied. Totally adequate. They left the shop and wandered through the winter market. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the snow-dusted stalls. To distract himself from how good she looked, Archie bought a bag of hot spiced almonds. Look at them. An old woman selling wreaths cooed as they passed. Newlyweds, are you? Such a handsome couple. We aren't, Penny started. Yes, Archie interrupted, surprising himself. He slipped his arm through hers. Just married. Thank you. Penny looked up at him, her cheeks flushing pink in the cold. Archie looked away, focusing intently on a stall selling magical trinkets. Let's go in here, he muttered, pulling her into a dusty antique shop. The shop was a labyrinth of junk. Penny poked around while Archie haggled over a telescope. On a bottom shelf, hidden behind a stack of cursed teapots, Penny found it. It was a ceramic owl. It was spectacularly ugly. One eye was larger than the other, and it was painted a garish orange. Oh, I have to have it, Penny laughed. It reminds me of Barnaby when he wakes up. It's hideous, Archie grimaced. Leave it. No, it's charming. Penny picked it up, but her mittens were slippery from the snow. The owl slid from her grasp and shattered on the floor. Oops. Congratulations, you've destroyed a masterpiece, Archie drawled. Wait. Penny knelt down. Among the ceramic shards lay a small, intricate device made of brass and crystal. It pulsed with a faint blue light. Archie froze. He dropped to his knees beside her. That's the chronometer, Penny whispered, recognizing it from the book. The Wishgrantaire. The shopkeeper, a deaf old goblin, waddled over. You break it, you buy it. 5 coppers for the broken owl. Penny handed him the coins, her hands trembling.
She scooped up the device.
Outside, in the quiet alley behind the shop, she held it out to Archie. Here, she said. Take it. Archie looked at the device. Do you know what this is? You could wish for anything.
Wealth. Fame.
To go home right now. I know, Penny said softly. But you need it more. You can get your dragon back. You can be free. Archie took the chronometer. The metal was warm. He looked at Penny, really looked at her, and felt something crack inside his chest that had nothing to do with the curse. Why? He asked. Because you saved my life from a troll, she smiled. And because I think the world needs more golden dragons. They walked to the edge of the city, where the snowy hills rolled down into the valley. The mood was heavy with unspoken words. To break the tension, Archie pointed to a sled rental. Have you ever sled on a Magnaglide? He asked. No, just a plastic tray, Penny admitted. Prepare for education. The next hour was chaos. They raced down the hills, Archie using subtle wind magic to steer, Penny shrieking with laughter as they launched off jumps. At the bottom of the hill, Penny stepped into a deep puddle of slush, soaking her canvas sneakers. Cold, cold, she hopped on one foot. Archie knelt in the snow. He tapped his boots, then tapped her feet. With a swirl of light, her soggy sneakers transformed into luxurious, fur-lined white boots with silver clasps. Better? He asked, looking up at her. Much, she breathed. Archie, why did you lose your dragon form? Mrs. Potts said it was a curse, but she didn't say how. Archie stood, brushing snow from his knees. He looked toward the distant mountains. 3 years ago, the Ashburn volcano erupted. It wasn't natural, it was dark magic. The lava would have consumed New Bristol. I flew into the crater. I had to draw all the heat, all the fire into myself to stop it. I saved the city, but I burned out my core. The curse is just a burnout. I need an external spark, a soulmate, the prophecy said, to reignite the flame. Until then, I am just a man.
Penny took his hand.
You're not just a man, Archie. You're a hero.
Archie squeezed her hand tight. Come on.
We have a ball to prepare for. They returned to Cloud Manor to find chaos of a different sort. A carriage emblazoned with the Blackwood crest was parked outside. Grandmother, Archie groaned. Duchess Beatrice was 80 years old, 4 feet tall, and terrifying. She was currently poking Barnaby with her cane while the griffin tried to hide behind a statue. Archibald, she barked. And who is this? She looks like she's been dragged through a hedge backward. Penny Miller, Your Grace. Penny curtsied, though she was indeed disheveled from sledding. Beatrice peered at her through a lorgnette. Humph. Eyes are bright. Hips look sturdy. She's an adorable savage. I like her. She leaned in close to Penny, whispering loudly, "Give me great-grandchildren quickly, dear." The line is dying out, and Archie is getting boring. Penny turned beet red. Archie choked on air. "Grandmother, she is a guest. She's the only girl you've brought home in a decade who doesn't look like she eats solely lemon wedges," Beatrice declared. "Now, come. We must build a snowman. It is tradition." And so, the Duke, the baker, and the terrifying Duchess built a snowman on the ramparts. It was lopsided. Penny added a carrot nose. Beatrice insisted on giving it a monocle. That night, the atmosphere in the castle shifted. The playfulness vanished, replaced by the looming dread of the ball. In the pink drawing room, Penny stood before the mirror in her sapphire dress. It fit perfectly, but the corset laces in the back were impossible to reach. She knocked softly on the connecting door. Archie opened it. He was dressed in his formal ducal regalia, a high-collared black tunic with gold embroidery and a velvet cape. He looked devastating. I can't reach the laces," Penny whispered. Archie stepped behind her without a word. His fingers were hot against her skin. He pulled the laces tight, starting from her waist and moving up. The air between them crackled. Every brush of his knuckles sent a shiver down Penny's spine. Archie paused at the nape of her neck, his breath stirring her hair. "Penny," he said, his voice rough. "About the chronometer. I haven't used it yet." "Why not?" "Because," he murmured, tying the final knot, "I'm not sure what my heart's true desire is anymore." He stepped away before she could answer. "We must go. The Queen is waiting." The ballroom of Cloud Manor had been transformed. The eccentric oak tree sparkled in the center, drawing gasps of admiration from the hundreds of masked guests. Announcing, Sir Winston bellowed, His Grace, the Duke of Blackwood, and Miss Penelope Miller. They descended the staircase arm in arm. Penny felt hundreds of eyes on her, but she only focused on Archie's grip on her hand. Lady Gwendolen was there, wearing the emerald dress. She looked furious as she saw the sapphire gown on Penny. "She's wearing the sky," someone whispered. "And he looks at her like she's the sun." The music started. They danced. It wasn't like the practice in the empty hall. This was electric. Archie spun her, lifted her. Their eyes locked. Suddenly, the trumpets blared. The crowd parted. Queen Valeriana entered. She was tall, icy, and radiated power. "Archibald," the Queen said, her voice cutting through the music. "It is midnight. Present your betrothed, or surrender your title." Archie held Penny's hand tighter. "Your Majesty, I present Penelope Miller, the woman I intend to marry." The crowd gasped. "A baker?" Gwendolen shrieked, stepping forward. "He insults the crown. She has no magic. She is a nobody. She has more heart than all of you combined," Archie snapped. "Proof," the Queen demanded. "The prophecy demands a union of power. If she is the one, let her show it." Before anyone could react, chaos erupted near the buffet table. Bandit the raccoon, dressed in a tiny bow tie, along with his squirrel girlfriend Lucy, had been climbing the champagne tower. It tipped. Crash. Thousands of glasses shattered. Champagne flooded the floor. Guests screamed. In the confusion, Gwendolen saw her chance. Her eyes glowed with dark violet magic. She muttered an incantation and thrust her hand forward. A blast of kinetic energy hit Penny square in the chest. Penny flew backward, over the balcony railing, and plummeted into the dark, misty void below. "Penny!" Archie screamed. He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He vaulted over the railing, diving into the abyss after her. The wind roared in his ears. He saw Penny falling below him, unconscious. He pulled the chronometer from his pocket. He could wish to be a dragon. He could wish to save himself. He clutched the device and screamed his wish. "Save her. Save my love." The chronometer shattered in his hand. A blinding explosion of golden light erupted from Archie's chest. The sacrifice, The choice to use the ultimate power for another rather than himself was the key. The burnout healed instantly. The lock broke. His body elongated, scales of impossible gold erupted along his skin. Wings, vast and terrifying, blocked out the moon.
He was no longer a man.
He was the golden dragon. He roared, a sound of pure triumph, and swooped down, catching Penny gently in his massive claws just feet before she hit the floating rocks of the dimension's floor. He beat his wings, rocketing back up toward the castle. As they rose, Penny stirred. She opened her eyes to see the golden beast holding her. She wasn't afraid. She reached out and touched a massive talon. And then, she began to glow. Silver light poured from her skin, mixing with his gold. She floated out of his grip, hovering in the air beside his muzzle. Archie the dragon's eyes widened. Levitation. The sign of the true mate. They crested the balcony railing, hovering before the stunned guests. The queen dropped her goblet. The prophecy, Mrs. Potts gasped, floating by the window. It said Penelope Miller. We assumed it meant the redhead because of the fire within. But the fire wasn't hair color. It was her. Archie shifted back into human form midair, but he didn't fall. He was suspended by Penny's magic. He pulled her into his arms, hovering 30 feet above the ballroom floor. You fly, he laughed, tears in his eyes. You actually fly. Only when I'm with you, Penny realized, the magic humming between them. Archie looked down at the queen. Is this proof enough? The queen bowed her head slowly. The title remains yours, Lord Blackwood. Archie looked back at Penny. Marry me? For real? Right now. Right now, Penny said. Before gravity remembers who I am. Sir Winston, Archie shouted. Do the honors. And so, hovering in the night sky above the Cloud Manor, illuminated by the glow of a golden dragon's aura and a baker's silver light, they were wed. Bandit the raccoon caught the bouquet.